Welcome to Saltwater Stories.
Great to be here.
Today, we're setting off on a really incredible journey, exploring something in the ocean that's, well, absolutely vital. It sustains almost all marine life, it helps produce the very air we breathe, and it even shapes our climate. But here's the thing, it's practically invisible to us.
Tiny but mighty.
Exactly. It's amazing how something so small can have such a huge planet-sized impact. Any guesses what this mysterious force might be?
I think I know where you're going with this.
Get ready, everyone, because today we're embarking on a remarkable expedition to uncover the secrets of phytoplankton.
Ah, yes. The ocean's invisible powerhouses. It's truly amazing how their tiny size hides such, well, immense power and global influence.
Absolutely. So when we talk about phytoplankton, what exactly are we picturing?
Okay, so picture microscopic, single-celled organisms. They just float around in the sunlit top layers of the ocean and even in lakes and rivers.
And the name itself tells a story, right? Phyto for plant, plankton for wanderer.
Precisely. Plant-like wanderers. And just like plants on land, they're autotrophic.
Meaning they make their own food?
Yep, self-feeding. They use sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, photosynthesis.
Yeah.
And the amazing byproduct, oxygen, lots of it.
Okay, this is where my mind gets blown every time. Even though they make up only, 1% of the world's photosynthetic biomass compared to all the forests and plants on land?
Just 1%, yeah.
It's tiny, but they're responsible for about half of all primary production on Earth.
That's staggering. They're like the planet's invisible forests.
It really reframes how you think about the planet's engines, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And what's more, their growth rate is incredible. Trees take decades, right?
Right.
Phytoplankton populations, they can double in just one day sometimes.
Oh, wow, one day.
Which means they can respond super quickly to changes in the environment. They're not just producers, they're indicators.
And the oxygen fact? Just remind us again.
Get this, phytoplankton generate at least 50% of the oxygen in our atmosphere.
So every second breath we take, you can thank these marine microbes.
Unbelievable.
And to really hammer it home, there's this one type, a tiny cyanobacterium called prochlorococcus. It alone produces up to 20% of the entire biosphere's oxygen.
20% from one species.
More than all the tropical rainforests combined.
How is that even possible? It leads to the question, phytoplankton isn't just one thing, is it? It's a huge group.
Oh, absolutely not. It's a massive ecological group, maybe over 20,000 known species. And scientists now often group them by what they do, their functional groups. It helps us understand their roles.
Like different jobs in the ocean ecosystem.
Kind of, yeah. Each group has its own, let's say, special skills.
Okay, like diatoms, I've heard them called architects of glass.
That's a perfect description. Diatoms build these incredibly intricate cell walls called frustules out of silica, basically glass.
Wow.
They grow fast, especially in nutrient-rich, churned-up waters near coasts. And when they die, those heavy glass shells make them sink quickly.
Which is important for carbon.
Hugely important. They carry carbon down to the deep ocean, locking it away for a long time. Real carbon sequestration champions.
Okay, cool. Then you have the dinoflagellates, the spinning swimmers. They sound fun.
They are fascinating. They have two little whip-like tails, flagella, which let them spin and actually swim up and down.
So they're not just drifting.
Nope, they can move to find the best spots for light or nutrients. Many photosynthesize, but some are mixotrophic. They can eat other tiny things too.
Like having a salad, but also maybe a snack on the side.
Something like that. They're also famous for making the water glow bioluminescence, but they're also the main culprits behind many toxic red tides or harmful algal blooms. We'll probably get to that later.
Right, the HABs. Okay, what about cyanobacteria? You mentioned prochlorococcus. These are the ancient producers.
Indeed. They're technically bacteria, blue-green algae, among the oldest life forms on Earth. They're the ones credited with first pumping oxygen into our atmosphere billions of years ago.
Talk about pioneers.
Absolutely. And marine types, like Prochlorococcus and Synechococcus, they're the smallest and most abundant photosynthesizers out there. Some, like Trichodesmium, can even do something amazing called nitrogen fixation.
Fixing nitrogen,
Yeah.
like from the air.
Exactly. They pull nitrogen gas from the air dissolved in water and turn it into fertilizer for the ocean. It's a huge deal in nutrient-poor areas.
Incredible. And the last group, coccolithophores, the armor-plated ones.
Yes. These look like something out of a fantasy world. They cover themselves in these beautiful, ornate plates made of calcium carbonate, basically chalk. They're called coccoliths.
Chalk armor.
Pretty much. And when they bloom in massive numbers, the light reflecting off all those chalk plates turns the ocean this milky turquoise color. You can see it from space.
No way.
Seriously. And when they die, those chalk plates sink and over millions of years form huge deposits like the White Cliffs of Dover.
Wow. So these tiny things literally build landscapes over geological time.
They do. It's a visible legacy of their long-term impact.
Okay, so we've met the wanderers, the glass builders, the swimmers, the ancient ones, and the armored ones. But how do they actually manage their lives out there in the big ocean? What are their survival strategies?
Well, the core engine, as we said, is photosynthesis, converting light into energy. That's job number one.
And they must be really good at catching that sunlight, even different kinds of light filtering down.
Oh, absolutely. They have a whole toolkit of pigments. Chlorophyll A is the main one, grabs blue and red light. That's why productive water looks greenish. But they also have accessory pigments. Think of them like different types of solar panels. Carotenoids, yellows, oranges, browns, and diatoms and dinos. Phycobilly proteins, reds and blues, and cyanobacteria. They help grab other colors of light that reach deeper, gives them an edge.
Clever. And reproduction. How do they multiply so fast to create those huge blooms?
Mostly, it's simple cell division. Mitosis, one cell splits into two into four, and so on. Under good conditions, lots of light, lots of nutrients. And this leads to exponential growth. Boom, a massive bloom covering huge areas.
But is that the only way?
No, some have more complex life cycles. They can have dormant stages like resting cysts. These can sink to the seabed and just wait, sometimes for years, like a seed bank.
A seed bank in the mud.
Exactly. Waiting for conditions to improve, then they can reseed the water column. Pretty resilient.
But wait, if they're drifters or wanderers, how do they stop themselves from just sinking down below the sunlight zone? They need that light, right?
Great question. It seems like a big problem, but they have some really ingenious tricks for staying afloat.
Like what?
Well, first, just being small helps. Also, shapes being flat, having spines, or forming long chains all increase their drag in the water. It slows them down, like a tiny parachute.
Okay, shape matters. What else?
Density control. Some cyanobacteria make gas bubbles inside themselves, like tiny life vests. Others store light oils or fats. Some can even change the salt concentration inside their cells to become slightly lighter than the seawater around them.
Wow, they actively adjust their buoyancy.
Some can, yeah. And remember the dinoflagellates. They actively swim with their flagella, moving up and down to find that sweet spot of light and nutrients. They're not passive at all.
So they're really active survivors. It sounds like they're not just floating randomly.
Definitely not. And they don't live in isolation either. Each phytoplankton cell actually leaks a little bit of organic matter, creating this tiny, rich zone around it called the phycosphere.
A phycosphere, like a little neighborhood.
Exactly. And this attracts bacteria. They form these close symbiotic relationships.
So the phytoplankton feed the bacteria.
Yeah, with sugars and stuff. And in return, the bacteria can provide things the phytoplankton need, but can't make themselves, like certain vitamins. B12 is a big one.
A nice little partnership.
Usually, but sometimes it's a bit, well, Jekyll and Hyde. Bacteria might help them grow when things are good, but if the phytoplankton starts dying, those same bacteria might turn on them, producing stuff to kill them faster to get at the goodies inside.
Ooh, tough neighborhood.
And viruses are a huge part of this world too. They infect phytoplankton, burst their cells open, and release all those nutrients back into the water. It sort of short-circuits the food chain, recycling nutrients right there.
Wow, a whole microscopic drama happening constantly. Okay, let's zoom out again. Their planetary impact. You called them the grass of the sea, the foundation of marine food webs.
Absolutely fundamental. They're the starting point. Nearly all energy in the ocean begins with them capturing sunlight.
And there's that 10% rule people talk about.
Yeah, the rule of trophic transfer. On average, only about 10% of the energy from one level makes it to the next level up. The rest is used for living, moving, breathing, or just lost.
So if you have 1,000 kilograms of phytoplankton,
that might only support about 100 kilograms of tiny zooplankton that eat them, and maybe 10 kilograms of small fish that eat the zooplankton, and just 1 kilogram of a top predator fish.
It takes a huge base to support the top.
A massive base, which explains why really short food chains can be so efficient. Think phytoplankton krill galeen whales.
The biggest animals on Earth, they go straight to the source.
Exactly. They tap right into that massive primary production. Smart move.
And beyond food, their role in the carbon cycle is enormous, you said. The biological carbon pump.
Yes. This is critical for climate. Through photosynthesis, they suck up vast amounts of CO2 from the surface ocean. This allows the ocean to absorb more CO2 from the atmosphere.
Okay.
Then when they die, especially those heavy diatoms and coccolithophores, they sink. They carry that carbon down into the deep ocean.
Locking it away.
Effectively, yes, for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. This pump transfers something like 10 gigatons of carbon every year. It's a massive climate regulation service.
10 gigatons, that's huge. But I remember you mentioned coccolithophores have a slightly complicated role here.
Ah, right. It's a neat detail. While they take up CO2 for photosynthesis like others, the chemical process of actually building their chalky calcium carbonate shells releases a little bit of CO2 back into the surface water.
Huh. So it's not quite as simple as just sinking carbon.
It adds a layer of complexity, yeah. Their net effect is still drawing down carbon overall, but the shell building part has that counterintuitive twist.
Fascinating. So they build the food web, they regulate carbon, but where do they actually live? Are they everywhere equally?
Oh, definitely not. If you look at satellite maps of ocean color, you see vibrant green ocean pastures teeming with phytoplankton, and then vast ocean deserts that are deep blue and have very little life.
So where are the hotspots? The pastures?
Typically, you find them in high latitudes, like the North Atlantic or Southern Ocean. Also, in coastal areas where upwelling happens, where deep, cold, nutrient-rich water is brought to the surface, and along the equator sometimes.
And the deserts?
Those are usually in the middle of big ocean gyres, like in the subtropics. The water there is warm, stable, and layered, like oil on vinegar. Nutrients from below can't easily mix up into the sunlight zone.
So what's the magic recipe for a phytoplankton bloom? What do they need?
It's basically three things. One, light. They need to be in the sunlit zone, the euphotic zone. Two, nutrients. The big ones are nitrogen and phosphorus, like plant fertilizer. Diatoms also need silica for their shells. And in some large parts of the ocean, a tiny trace metal, iron, is the limiting factor. Even if there's plenty of everything else, without enough iron, they can't grow much.
Iron, like rust.
Essentially, yeah, dissolved iron. Huge areas of the ocean are high nutrient, low chlorophyll because they lack iron. And the third thing is physical processes mixing upwelling things that bring those deep nutrients up to the light.
And when all those line up, you get those seasonal blooms?
Exactly. And places like the North Atlantic, winter storms mix the water deep, bringing up nutrients. Then in spring, the sun gets stronger, the water stabilizes a bit. Boom, massive spring bloom. It often crashes when they use up the nutrients or when the tiny animals that eat them, the zooplankton, catch up.
Is there an autumn bloom too sometimes?
Sometimes, yeah. Autumn storms might mix up a few more nutrients before the light gets too weak for winter. In the tropics, though, it's different. Light is usually plentiful year-round.
So nutrients are the main limit there?
Generally, yes. So you tend to have lower, more stable levels of phytoplankton all year, not those dramatic seasonal peaks and troughs.
You mentioned the North Atlantic bloom. That's a really famous one, right?
Hey,
What did studies like NAMES find out about it?
Yeah, the North Atlantic Aerosols and Marine Ecosystem Study gave us some great insights. They found the bloom can actually kick off earlier than we thought, maybe triggered by smaller features like ocean eddies. And a really key idea is the disturbance recoupling hypothesis. Basically, winter mixing spreads out both the phytoplankton and their grazers, the zooplankton. They're diluted. Then spring comes, light increases. The phytoplankton, being able to reproduce so fast, get a head start, they bloom almost unchecked for a while before the zooplankton population can build up enough to graze them down effectively. It's this temporary mismatch that allows the bloom to get so huge.
Predator-prey timing being out of sync.
Precisely. And there's another cool link. The bloom can even affect the atmosphere.
How so?
Some phytoplankton, especially coccolithophores, release a gas called dimethyl sulfide, or DMS. This gas goes into the atmosphere and can help form tiny particles that clouds need to form around cloud condensation nuclei.
So phytoplankton can influence clouds?
Potentially, yes. By affecting the number or size of cloud droplets, they could influence how bright clouds are, how long they last, maybe even regional climate. It's an active area of research.
Wow. Okay, we've talked about all the amazing things they do, but sometimes things go wrong. Let's talk about harmful algal blooms, or HABs. When blooms go bad.
Right. Most blooms are good. They fuel the food web. But certain species, when they bloom excessively, can cause serious problems. They might produce toxins or just become so dense they harm the environment in other ways.
And red tide isn't always the best term.
No, it's common but misleading. Blooms can be green, brown, yellow, even seem to make the water clear but toxic. And they aren't linked to tides. So HEBs is the better scientific term.
Are they natural? Or are we making them worse?
They are a natural phenomenon, yes. But there's strong evidence that human activities are increasing their frequency, intensity, and geographic range. Things like nutrient pollution runoff from farms, sewage, fertilizers acts like super fertilizer for some of these species. And climate change plays a role too. Warmer water favors some HAB species, and changes in ocean stratification can concentrate them.
And the toxins they produce, how do they affect us and marine life?
The toxins can be really nasty. They get concentrated up the food web. Shellfish filter feed, accumulate the
Yeah.
toxins, but aren't usually harm themselves. But then, if seabirds, marine mammals, or humans eat those contaminated shellfish, problems start. You can get amnesic shellfish poisoning, causing memory loss, seizures, paralytic shellfish poisoning, leading to paralysis, respiratory failure, neurotoxic shellfish poisoning, which can even cause breathing problems from sea spray near a bloom, diuretic shellfish poisoning. Well, the name says it all.
Yikes. And freshwater, too.
Yes, certain cyanobacteria in lakes and rivers produce toxins like microcystins that can cause severe liver damage and contaminate drinking water supplies. It's a major public health concern.
And even if a bloom isn't toxic, it can still be harmful.
Absolutely. If a bloom gets incredibly dense, when all those cells eventually die and sink, the bacteria that decompose them use up nearly all the dissolved oxygen in the water.
Creating dead zones.
Yeah, exactly. Areas where oxygen levels are too low for fish, crabs, and other animals to survive, they suffocate.
So the ecological impacts are huge: fish kills, seabird deaths.
Widespread mortality events, yes. And the economic costs are massive too. Think about shutting down shellfish harvesting or finfish fisheries for weeks or months. That 2015 Dungeness crab fishery closure on the U.S. West Coast cost nearly $100 million. Tourism suffers too. Nobody wants to go to a beach with dead fish and respiratory irritation.
That 2015 event was particularly bad, wasn't it? What happened there?
It was unprecedented, the largest, longest-lasting, most toxic HAB event recorded on the West Coast. It's kind of a perfect storm.
How so?
You had unusually warm ocean conditions, partly due to a massive marine heat wave nicknamed the blob. This warm water allowed a particularly toxic species of diatom, Pseudonychia australis, to thrive and spread much further north than usual. Then strong coastal upwelling brought nutrients to the surface, feeding this massive toxic bloom. Some research also suggests that the ratio of certain nutrients, like silicate, might have influenced just how toxic the diatoms became. It was a wake-up call about how climate change can exacerbate these events.
Wow. It makes you appreciate the scientists studying this. How do they study something so tiny across such vast oceans? What tools do they use?
It's a real challenge. You need a whole suite of tools. For the big picture, the global view, satellites are key. They measure ocean color.
Ocean color.
Yeah, the light reflecting off the sea surface. Water with lots of phytoplankton looks greener because chlorophyll absorbs blue and red light. Water with very little looks deep blue. Satellites map these colors globally. And new ones, like NASA's PACE mission, can even start to tell different types of phytoplankton apart from space.
That's amazing. But for specifics, what's actually in the water?
Well, the classic method is still microscopy. Looking at water samples under a microscope is the gold standard for identifying species accurately, but it's slow.
Right.
So a game changer has been flow cytometry. Imagine shining a laser through a stream of water so narrow that cells pass through one by one. The instrument measures how each cell scatters the laser light and how brightly it fluoresces from its pigments.
So it counts and characterizes them automatically.
Thousands per second. It's incredibly fast and can measure even the tiniest cells that are hard to see with a microscope. And there are even imaging flow cytometers now that snap a picture of each cell as it goes past, like automated selfies for microbes.
Tiny selfies. That's brilliant. What about their genetics?
That's where molecular and genomic techniques come in. We can extract DNA and RNA directly from seawater samples. Analyzing this genetic material tells us which species are present, even rare ones. And by looking at the RNA, we can see which genes are turned on what they're actually doing metabolically.
Like reading their instruction manual.
Exactly. And we also have robots helping out now.
Robots. In the ocean.
Yep. Robotic exploration using things like autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, and fleets of drifting profiling floats called biogeochemical Argo or BGC Argo floats.
What do they do?
These robots can operate on their own for months, diving up and down, measuring chlorophyll, oxygen, nutrients, lights. Things satellites can't see beneath the surface. They give us a continuous presence in the ocean, and some can even be steered to follow interesting features, like a developing bloom. They're like our underwater robotic science team.
Incredible technology. Okay, looking ahead, we're living in what people call the Anthropocene ocean, heavily influenced by humans. What are the biggest challenges facing phytoplankton now and in the future?
It's a critical question. The big stressors are mostly linked to climate change and pollution. We're talking about ocean warming, ocean acidification, and deoxygenation.
Let's take warming first. How does that affect them?
As the surface ocean warms, becomes lighter, less dense, this makes it harder for the surface water to mix with the cooler, denser, nutrient-rich water below. We call this increased stratification.
Like oil and vinegar separating more strongly.
Good analogy. And that means fewer nutrients reaching the sunlit zone in many parts of the ocean, especially the open ocean deserts. This generally leads to less overall phytoplankton growth in those areas.
Okay, less food at the base. What about acidification?
As the ocean absorbs more CO2 from the atmosphere, which is the main cause of climate change, the water becomes more acidic. Its pH drops.
And that's bad for shell builders.
Exactly. It makes it chemically harder for organisms like coccolithophores, corals, shellfish, to build their shells and skeletons out of calcium carbonate. It requires more energy, or the structures might be weaker or dissolve more easily. It's like trying to build your house with crumbling bricks.
And deoxygenation, less oxygen.
Two things happening there. Warmer water naturally holds less dissolved oxygen. Plus, as we discussed, when blooms die and decay, especially if fueled by excess nutrients from pollution, that decomposition process consumes oxygen, worsening the problem and expanding those dead zones.
So, with all these pressures, what changes are scientists predicting for phytoplankton communities?
We're seeing several trends. One is a poleward shift. As waters warm, species are moving towards the poles, trying to stay in their preferred temperature range. We're seeing shifts of maybe 30, 40 kilometers per decade for some groups.
Wow, they're migrating.
In a sense, yes. We're also predicting a shift towards smaller cell sizes overall. Smaller cells are often better at acquiring scarce nutrients in those increasingly stratified, nutrient-poor waters.
Smaller cells. Does that matter?
Oh, it matters hugely for the food web and carbon pump, which we'll get to. Also, the timing of blooms is changing. Spring blooms might happen earlier or fall blooms later. This can cause a trophic mismatch.
That mismatch again, like the fish larvae hatching, but their food isn't ready.
Exactly. If the zooplankton peak doesn't align with the phytoplankton peak, or if fish spawning is timed to historical bloom patterns that have now shifted, it can lead to recruitment failure for fisheries. It's a major concern.
And these shifts at the base, they must have massive consequences further up. You mentioned the carbon pump.
Right. If the dominant phytoplankton becomes smaller, they sink much more slowly when they die. Less carbon gets efficiently transported to the deep ocean. More carbon stays near the surface, potentially returning to the atmosphere faster.
A feedback loop. Weakening the pump speeds up warming.
That's the fear. It could reduce the ocean's ability to buffer climate change.
And the impact on fisheries sounds dire.
It really is. A shift to smaller phytoplankton generally means longer, less efficient food chains. Remember the 10% rule. More steps mean less energy reaches the top. Studies estimate that even a modest 15–25% decline in global phytoplankton production could lead to a huge 35–55% drop in the ocean's potential to support fisheries.
That's a massive potential decline in fish stocks and a huge threat to food security.
Absolutely. Billions of people rely on seafood. And unfortunately, the conditions favoring smaller cells, warmer stratified water also often favor the growth of many harmful algal bloom species.
So more HABs on top of everything else.
That seems to be the trend, yes. More frequent, more intense, potentially more widespread toxic blooms in the future. It's a complex and concerning picture.
It is. But is there potential to harness these tiny organisms? Can we use microalgae, as they're called in industry, for good?
Yes, absolutely. There's huge potential and a lot of exciting work happening.
Like for energy, biofuels.
Definitely. Microalgae are seen as a third-generation biofuel source. They can produce oils that can be converted to biodiesel or other compounds for bio-oil or biogas. The big advantages. They grow incredibly fast. You don't need fertile farmland. You can grow them in ponds or reactors on marginal land. And some can even grow using wastewater or salty water.
Cleaning water while making fuel.
That's the potential. It tackles multiple problems at once.
What about other uses, like food or medicine?
Huge potential there, too. They're a powerhouse of nutrition. Think of protein-rich supplements like spirulina and chlorella. Those are cyanobacteria and green microalgae. They're also the original source of those essential omega-3 fatty acids, DHA and EPA, that make fish oil healthy fish get them by eating phytoplankton.
Ah, so go straight to the source.
Exactly. They also produce valuable natural pigments like beta-carotene, like in carrots, and astaxanthin, which makes salmon pink, which are powerful antioxidants. There's research into using them for pharmaceuticals, too. And they're absolutely vital in aquaculture as feed for larval fish and shellfish.
And you mentioned bioremediation, cleaning water?
Yes, they're great at soaking up excess nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus from wastewater streams. Using algae to treat sewage or agricultural runoff is a growing field. Tiny natural water purifiers.
No. What about the really big idea? Climate engineering, using them to actively draw down CO2. You mentioned iron fertilization earlier.
Ah, yes, the iron hypothesis. It stemmed from the observation that some large ocean areas had plenty of nutrients, but little phytoplankton, seemingly limited by iron. Oceanographer John Martin famously, perhaps half-jokingly, "Give me half a tanker of iron and I will give you an ice age."
Quite a claim. Did they test it?
They did. Several experiments, most famously Iron X2 in 1995 in the equatorial Pacific. They added a small amount of dissolved iron and boom, phytoplankton bloomed massively, chlorophyll increased 16 times, diatoms 70 times. It proved the principle. Iron limits growth in these regions, and adding it causes blooms.
So why isn't it the solution to climate change? Why is it controversial?
Several big reasons. First, we still don't know for sure how much the carbon taken up by that bloom actually sinks deep enough and stays sequestered long term. Some might just get recycled near the surface. Second, the ecological side effects are unpredictable. Could you trigger a massive toxic bloom? Could the decay of the bloom create large dead zones? Could it alter the food web in unexpected ways? Could it release other potent greenhouse gases like nitrous oxide?
Lots of unknowns.
Huge unknowns. And then there are the ethical and governance issues of intentionally manipulating ocean ecosystems on such a potentially massive scale. Who decides? Who is responsible if something goes wrong? It's a powerful idea, but the risks and uncertainties are currently seen as too high for large-scale deployment.
Understood. It's been such an amazing journey exploring these organisms. How did we even start discovering this hidden world?
Well, the very first glimpses probably came from Antony van Leeuwenhoek back in the 1670s with his early microscopes. He saw tiny animalcules in water. But it wasn't until the 19th century that scientists really started piecing it together. Joseph Dalton Hooker, a naturalist on an Antarctic expedition in the 1840s, realized that the microscopic diatoms he saw were the fundamental pasturage of the ocean, feeding everything else.
With grass of the sea.
Exactly. And then the term plankton itself was coined by Victor Henson in Germany in 1887, formally defining this community of drifting organisms.
And the pace picked up in the 20th century.
Dramatically, especially from the 1970s onwards. That's when scientists discovered the existence of incredibly tiny phytoplankton, like Prochlorococcus, which just blew previous estimates of ocean productivity out of the water. And then in 1978, the first successful ocean color satellite, the Coastal Zone Color Scanner, CZCS, was launched.
Giving us that first global view.
Yes, for the first time, we could see the patterns of life across entire ocean basins, those pastures and deserts, changing with the seasons. It revolutionized oceanography.
And even beyond science, they capture our imagination, don't they? In art, culture.
They really do. The intricate blast shells of diatoms are incredibly beautiful. Victorian naturalists used to arrange them into stunning microscopic mosaics. You see phytoplankton featured in amazing documentaries like The Plankton Chronicles. Even pop culture gets in on it. Plankton from SpongeBob SquarePants, while maybe not biologically accurate, raises awareness. And citizen science projects like using a Secchi disk to measure water clarity involve the public in monitoring them.
It shows how something so small can have such a far-reaching impact scientifically and culturally.
Absolutely.
Well, what an absolutely incredible exploration this has been. A huge thank you for sharing all this knowledge. We've journeyed into the world of these tiny ocean plants, discovering how they literally power our planet, shaping everything from the air we breathe to the food on our plates.
It's been a pleasure. And perhaps a final thought for everyone listening. The next time you look out at the ocean, whether it's calm or stormy, blue or green, just remember that vast, bustling, unseen world beneath the surface. These microscopic organisms are constantly working, reacting, shaping our planet. Understanding their delicate balance and how we're affecting it is truly key to understanding the future health of Earth. It really makes you wonder, what other profound secrets are hidden in the depths, just waiting for us to discover?
A perfect thought to end on. Thank you again. And thank you all for joining us on Saltwater Stories. We'll see you next time.